Hello, and this is the Warpforge with as I said, I was going to do these more talkative videos, so here I am talking with a 40k rambling. So this is going to be this is more of a discussion between me and you guys at home and girls. So I was wanting to talk about allies in this video. For those who don't play the game or have just started the game, I'll say what allies is. Allies is basically that extra edge, you could say, to have in your army. If you've always thought about starting a second army, allies now would be the way to go. What allies is basically a more, I wouldn't say restricted, but minimised, slimline version of the primary force chart, which is where your main army goes. Basically, all you do is have the minimum restriction of 1 HQ and 1 troops choice, instead of having the 2 troops choices and 1 HQ. Your warlord can never be in the allies detachment, or it has to be in primary. So at the start it tries to fix some fiddlings that people may exploit. So basically that's all you do, and it's always very minimal in terms of maximization. I believe you can have up to a maximum of 2 troops choices and only 1 fast attack elite heavy support. If I've missed any out, I apologise. And it's basically, the idea behind it is, if you're playing for the scenario or the narrative or trying to make a backstory basically towards your force, it could be anything. It could be, that could have been in the background a force that was starting to lose, trying to withdraw back from the enemy, and then your primary force just comes in by coming from the sky, or a massive warp portal opens and in come the primary force to reinforce the allies that were losing, kind of thing. Or it could be the primary forces are having an engagement and then in comes the allies with extra hitting power, trying to fight for the more favoured side, which is of course your side. Backstory wise, that's what allies is meant to be. Rules wise, it's meant to give you a cutting edge. If you've got a little bit of a weakness in one area, allies should reinforce and make your weakness harder to exploit for the enemy. That essentially, game wise, is what allies is. Financially wise or business strategy wise, it's basically a gateway to basically start another army that you've always been interested in. So basically that's what allies is, and I'll start off with the good points, shall I? The good points for what I believe to be good in allies is you can create good background around the allies in your primary detachment. So, like I said, what I usually do in terms of background for Traitor Guard and Chaos Marines is, there's been a Traitor Guard force, they fought, but they started to crumble, starting to retreat back. Then in comes my Chaos Marines, opening up warp portals everywhere, flowing through the warp, attacking, reinforcing the Traitor Guard, pardon me, so that they can get the job done and reclaim their world that rightfully belongs to them. And that's what I think is a good backstory. There could be others. Second good point is, as I've said, it allows you to have a minimum force of an army you may have been interested in. So for me, like I said, I've had an interest with Imperial Guard, but that's only because I'm a very big treadhead. I'll say that. I love tanks. I just love the idea of having this massive armoured vehicle with big guns, just slamming it out with treads. It's great. Tanks are great. So I've always been interested in the Imperial Guard because of that. However, I went with Chaos Marines because I like the aesthetic of demon machines. So, for me to have that small eye detachment for those tanks to go with my demon machines seems quite nice. I like that idea. Third point is, it can be quite good. And I don't mean that as supposedly in this context of positive points as a exploitation point. It's a double-edged sword, but I'll mention later. I find it good games-wise because you can sort of cherry-pick units. Sort of. You can't minimum max them, but you can sort of have a good unit and have fun with that unit. Or you could have a shoddy unit, but in the long context of things, in terms of synergy with your army, that shoddy unit could be actually quite good support for another unit or another part of your army as well. So it does gives more synergy towards you. So there's my good points. The bad points, however, always come off as a double-edged sword. First point is, as I said, it's nice to have synergy and all that for your armies and forces and stuff. The problem is that it does get exploited. And two examples of this is the Grimmer of True Names, where you can have a Herald with Screamer Star with the primary detachment of Chaos Marines. So right there you've got they've got the advantages of Chaos Space Marines, whatever they are. Yes, they are, they're Helldrakes, supposedly, theoretically. And then you have the added bonus of having a Screamer Star right in your face for the 2++ invulnerable save that rerolls wands. Another famous example of this is the Farsight Enclave's allies detachment of Farsight Bomb to basically anything. So it's basically a Riptide and then Farsight. Farsight joins Riptide because rules as written wise, the gun drones are counted as models, which means the monstrous creature is more than one model, therefore it's a squad that Farsight can join. And he deep strikes with a deep strike and Riptide in your face. And if you had another force which had supporting elements too, along with that Riptide and Farsight, it can be a bit iffy. The third, final, and the one we all love to hate in tournament-wise, is Tau Da. This usually comes in the form of Tau with Eldar allies. Sometimes it can be the vice versa. Tau Da is basically, you've got your Tau, you've got your Markalites, you've got your absolute everything, you've got line of sight ignores, you've got Markalites to ignore your opponent's cover saves. You have deep strike if you've rolled lucky or you've got Farsight. You've got the deep strike mechanism where you can deep strike and always be on target with a bot suit. And then you've got the allies attachment with a Far Seer or a specialist Seer like Eldrad, Ulthan or something. Some jet bikes or wave serpents, whatever. And then you just go around and cast Fortune and Doom upon everything. So technically, you're also, as well as ignoring your opponent's cover saves, ignoring basically any form of defence due to either the volume of fire or the low AP. That's how the Tau Codex was written, in my opinion. You've also got added on to twin linked ability to that. Now I could be wrong there. Fortune could be different from twin linked, but as I've read it from internet forums, since I don't have the Eldar Codex, they've always said that it was twin linked. So if I'm wrong, post a comment down. I'll be open up to say I was wrong, which I'll apologise for. But that's how I say it. So already you kind of have the two big rock, paper, scissors, which is the Grimmer of True Names versus Tau Da, which tend to be right at the top from what I've seen and what I've observed anyway. So first point is that it's exploitive. So the second point is not all of the alliances make sense. A big one to discuss about is the Tyranid allies chart. Most of it makes sense, but I think one of them that doesn't is not being able to ally with Imperial Guard. And I can understand why Games Workshop wouldn't have let them ally with Imperial Guard, mainly because you'd have monstrous creatures like tervagons and stuff like that, which breed out hormigons, and then you know someone's going to take a vendetta, or like a squadron of Lehman Russ battle tanks to reinforce those tervagons and stuff. So I can understand on a power level reasoning why they wouldn't have allowed the Imperial Guard to ally with the Tyranids. But at the same time, you're missing out on Gene Stealer cults, which is a bit And that's something that the data slate should have really fixed, to be honest. But they didn't release a data slate for Gene Stealer cults, which would have been excellent because it would have added a little bit more zaniness into the 41st millennium, while keeping to the realistic, hyper-violent movement that it is at the moment. So already, I mean, I look at the Turoks as well. The new Turoks about to be released, or depending on when this video is released, has released, and that looks perfect for an armoured limousine for a Gene Stealer cultist command squad or something like that. I'm sorry, but it really does. So I think Games Workshop's lost a bit of way with that. Another one that doesn't make sense is Grey Knights and Necrons. Now, I don't really have a problem because of what the Necrons and the Grey Knights have between codexes, which is apparently they occasionally met up and they gave each other technology and stuff like that. I can understand the allies behind that, but they're allies. It's the differentiation of allies. I would have always counted them as desperate allies, which means they've always got an eye on each other, considering that the Imperium is extremely xenophobic. I mean, we're talking off the charts xenophobic, and yet they can stand the Necrons, which are probably like the most alien of all the Xenos. Well, second, I would say, because I would say the first alien of all Xenos is the Tyranids, because they don't communicate, they just feed. But alas, I digress. The Necron, any Xeno race should have been desperate allies apart from the Tau, which would have been very occasionally with like stuff like the Imperial Guard, maybe allies of convenience. So already there, as I've said, it doesn't make sense that the Imperium would make allies on the differentiation that they have made with other Xenos, which would have been desperate, I would have assumed. It's like, there was a one with, there was a few Imperium with orcs for allies of convenience, which I don't find good, in my opinion. Because, I mean, like I say, the Imperium's extremely xenophobic. They should have been desperate allies, in my opinion. But alas, that's what I think. Some of the stuff in terms of differentiation of allies doesn't make sense. The final point I'm going to make is Battle Brothers. I can understand that they want to make certain armies more fisticuffs and more bro fists with each other than other armies. I can understand that. However, again, it follows into the power exploitation which happens. Like I've said about, someone could be spamming 3 Heldrakes and then shove a Grimmer of True Names right in your face with a Screamer Star. As I said, the power levels creep, and tournament-wise, it makes it feel like you lost just because you were outruled rather than actual player skill, which is what you came for a tournament for, because you wanted to have a few games, have a good sociable time, but also to test out your skill against another, not to see who picked up the biggest arms race available to them in their income. But that's just my opinion. Now we're up to my opinion, and my opinion, I enjoy allies, but I always, with 40k, and especially competitive wise, I always stick strongly to this, not anecdote, but this single quote from times gone by. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That is my opinion. As I've said, because of the power levels that Games Workshop create, which do have, and I don't mind a subtle difference, but that's a video to go into another time. But due to Games Workshop power levels, which are, instead of being very subtle like that, they're very big, and due to Games Workshop's attitude towards tournament play and competitive events of that they are just a models company and they don't really care for game balance, I always say stick to that one code, because if you do that, you'll enjoy the game more. I've done that and I enjoy the game tons more than when I started playing competitively. I don't play competitively anymore because it's just not my type of play style for Warhammer 40k. But again, that's another video for another time. So always stick, my opinion is always stick to the one line of just because you can doesn't mean you should. And with that, I've managed to make Traitor Guard with the Dark Mechanicum, which I will be making update videos for hobby updates when I get some specialist troopers from Dreamforge Games as well. So like I say, I enjoy the game, I enjoy the allies as an idea, but I think the execution was poorly done due to the power levels, and that's my opinion on it. If you're willing to discuss about my opinion or your opinion, then please post a comment in the comment description. And that's all I have to really say on the topic. So, and with that, this is the Warp Forge, signing out, and remember, keep on forging.